Welcome to Table Talk Reviews. I'm Matt Mitchell. Let's return to the world of Boar, where small folk must defend their lands from giant guardian creatures, this time in Maul Peak. Maul Peak is a two-player asymmetrical board game designed by Keith Matejka and Eduardo Baref, where one player will play as a clan of grizzly bears fighting a giant guardian creature controlled by the other player. This is a standalone sequel to Skulk Hollow, both of which are published by Pencil First Games, who provided me with this copy. Let me teach you how to play, and then I'll share my thoughts. The Guardian player wins if they can eliminate all heroes from play, or by completing their unique win condition indicated on their player board. The hero player wins if they eliminate the Guardian. They do this by dealing enough damage to fill all the heart spaces on the Guardian board. To set up the game, decide which player will play as the Grizzar, the hero side, and which player will play as the Guardian. Place the map of Maul Peak with the keep closest to the hero player and the layer closest to the Guardian player. The Guardian player will then choose which Guardian they'll use for the game. In this video, I'll be using Saboso to explain all the rules. If you have any questions about the specific abilities of the other Guardians, feel free to ask them in the comments. Give that player the matching board and tuck box for that Guardian. The hero player will take the Grizzar player mat and tuck box, as well as the den board. After the Guardian player selects which Guardian they'll use, the hero player can decide which winter beast they're going to use for the game. If this is your first game, it's recommended to use the Snow Hare. In this case, you'll take that card and give the opposing player this reference card to indicate the ability of the Snow Hare, as well as the abilities for each Grizzar character. Players can also swap reference cards for their side, which list all of the abilities and actions they can take on their turn. If the Guardian you're using has any unique setup, do this now. Saboso's unique setup is to place the Shiver tokens onto his player board. The Guardian board can be placed on the table anywhere in reach of both players. Then you'll place your Guardian figure on the layer space. It would normally be standing up, but I'm laying it down simply for video sake. The hero player can then place their figure for the Druid and Winter Beast in the keep space. Create a supply of rage cubes and damage tokens. Red damage is for the hero player and blue damage is for the Guardian player. If the Guardian uses power cubes, put those in the supply as well. In this case, Saboso only needs 1 cube. Place the hero cards and figures onto the den board. This space is the graveyard where eliminated hero cards will go. Place 2 rage cubes directly into the bank on the hero board and not the pool. Both players can now shuffle their decks and draw up to their hand size indicated on their player board. Both the hero and Guardian player have the same turn structure of a main phase and a cleanup phase. During the main phase, the player can take as many actions as listed on their player board. In this case, Saboso can take up to 3 actions. The main way to take actions is by playing a card from your hand and taking either of the actions listed on the card. Some Guardians will have dual action cards with a plus sign instead of the line separating the actions, which allow you to do either or both of the actions in whichever order you choose. However, no action or ability can be used in between the actions. The Guardian player can also prepare by discarding 1 card from their hand if possible, and then drawing 2 cards from their deck. You can do this even if your hand is empty. Similarly, the hero player can intensify by discarding 1 card from their hand if possible, and either adding a rage cube to their pool or drawing a card and adding it to their hand. Same as the Guardian player, they can take this action even if their hand is empty. In addition to the action limit, the Guardian player can remove a power cube from the power space to move the Guardian 1 space in any direction, or take any of their other available actions. You'll see later why some of these actions may not be available. In a similar way, the hero player can spend rage from their bank to either spawn one of their heroes, use their Winter Beast's ability, or climb on the Guardian with one of their hero figures. In both players' cases, the cubes are returned to the supply, and these actions do not count against the player's action limit, and they're not required to play any cards. Once a player is done taking actions or hits their action limit, they move to the cleanup phase. In this phase, the Guardian player will allocate power by moving power cubes into the available power spaces. Each space can only hold one cube. Any excess cubes are returned to the supply. The hero player will allocate rage by moving all rage cubes in their pool up to their bank. These cubes can now be spent on the player's turn to take additional actions. And finally, the active player will refill to their hand limit. If the player is already at their maximum hand size or above, instead, they will just simply draw one card. If the player's deck runs out and they still need to draw cards, they will simply shuffle their discard pile and draw as many cards as they still need to hit their hand size. Players' actions are conveniently listed on their player board. The first action for the Grizzar is Summon. This is one of the free actions they can do by spending their rage cubes. They'll spend the indicated amount of rage on the hero card in their den to place that card in their play area and then summon the matching figure onto the board. When summoned, a hero unit can be placed in the keep space or either of the two adjacent camp spaces. It can be summoned into a space with other hero units, but it cannot be summoned into a space occupied by the Guardian. The next three actions on your player board come from playing cards, such as Melee, Leap, and Magic. Not shown on the player board is the Gain Rage action, which will just allow you to place the indicated number of rage cubes in your pool, as well as movement actions, which allow you to move your figures on the Maul Peak map in the indicated directions. And lastly is Intensify, which I explained earlier is discarding one card to gain one rage or draw one card. Movement order cards will allow you to move your hero unit in the direction indicated on the card based on the board being laid out at this angle between the players. So Maneuver will let you move either diagonally forward or back or left and right diagonally. Whereas Proceed will allow you to move diagonally forward or back. Slant Left will allow you to move on the left slanting angle. Conversely, Slant Right is the opposite. And Scatter allows you to move in all four of those directions. Gain Ground allows you to move to any space. So in this case, this player could move up, diagonally, this way, back, or this hero could move up here or here, however they choose. If a hero is in the same space as the Guardian and plays an order card to take the leap action, they move their figure up on either side of this Guardian board. So these indicate the access points, but are not locations to place your figures. This symbol is where you'll place your figure. So if I want to climb up the left leg, I can place it right directly onto the left knee. If a player is already climbing a Guardian, they can use the leap action to move to a connected space, which you can see by the dotted lines. Each area can hold as many figures as there are spaces. The leap action can also be used to jump off of the Guardian, and the figure is returned to the space the Guardian is located on the Maul Peak map. A hero unit on the Guardian can use the melee action to deal damage, and once damage is dealt, completely eliminating all of the heart spaces on the board for an action. That action is no longer available to Saboso until he heals one of those hearts. For the Quake action, you'll notice it's split between the legs, and the hero needs to deal 3 damage in 2 different locations. Playing a magic action will allow you to use one of the magic actions on a hero that is in play. Note that not all heroes have a magic ability. Although the Winter Beasts are a special hero unit, they count as a hero unit for endgame conditions such as the general win condition or specific win conditions like Saboso needing to trap a certain number of hero units. However, winter beasts can be conjured again as long as the druid is still in play. You can re-conjure this if it is eliminated, or even if it's in play, you can use the ability to conjure it again and remove any status effects such as being frozen. In addition to listing all the available actions, Guardian boards will show diagrams for each action to show which spaces they can target. The Guardian player has movement actions that work the same as the hero player. However, they also have some that are more restricted than the hero player. Advance only lets them move diagonally forward, flank right, only diagonally right, flank left, only diagonally left, and approach left is forward left, and approach right is forward right. The gain power action will have you add the indicated number of cubes to the pool on your player board. Keep in mind with Saboso that you only have one space, so if you don't use this cube will be lost during the cleanup phase. Saboso can use the Quake action to either deal 1 wound to a hero in his space, or deal a wound to all frozen hero units, regardless of their location. When a hero unit is eliminated, it is placed into the graveyard space on the den board. The Frost action can be used to freeze heroes in spaces sharing a side with Saboso's space. In this case, red is safe as well as the green hero. So only these two heroes will be frozen, and you'll place a shiver token on top or underneath them to indicate that they're frozen. If Frost is used and a hero already has a shiver token, they still receive an additional shiver token. Any hero with 1 or more shiver tokens is frozen. They're no longer banded. They cannot move, take actions, or use abilities. At the end of the hero player's turn, they'll remove 1 shiver token from all hero units. They can also spend 1 rage cube at any time on their turn to remove 1 shiver token from 1 hero. These tokens are returned to Saboso's playmat. The trap action can be used to take any hero in Saboso's space that is currently frozen and capture them to the cell on Saboso. Remove any shiver tokens and place the hero figure in the cell space on the Saboso board. If Saboso is able to trap 4 hero units, they win the game. Trapped heroes are considered eliminated. If the Winter Beast is trapped, the Druid can conjure them and they escape from the cell and are placed back onto the board. When heroes are climbing on Saboso, a whack action can be used to remove one of them from Saboso, placing it on one of the spaces surrounding Saboso on the Maul Peak map. In this case, all 8 spaces are available, but this is the best option because when placing the knocked off hero into a space containing other heroes, you can deal 1 wound to any of the heroes in that space, either the one you just placed or one that was already there. The Mend action can be used to remove 1 damage token from any region on Saboso. In this case, this makes the trap action available to the Guardian player again. And lastly, Saboso can prepare by discarding 1 card if they still have cards in hand and drawing 2 cards. And that's everything you need to know to play Maul Peak. Now, right off the bat, from when you open this box, it gives you a great first impression because it has a nice insert and everything is organized into tuck boxes. So you just pull out the 2 boxes for the characters you're going to play as well as their boards, and you're good to go. There's a ton of content to play through in Maul Peak as well. You have the 4 Guardians, so that's 8 configurations if you play both sides, plus 6 different Winter Beasts to mix and match with. As well, Maul Peak is compatible with Skulk Hollow, so you can play as the heroes from Skulk Hollow against Guardians from Maul Peak, or vice versa. And on top of that, there's a solo story mode that you can play this adventure that spans between Skulk Hollow and Maul Peak. It's really cool that there's just so much to play through in this one box, and the other box if you have Skulk Hollow as well. One of the things I really liked about Maul Peak was the unique win conditions for the Guardians. I think if this was just a straightforward 1v1 combat game, defeat your enemy, I would tire of it a lot faster than having those unique goals to aim for instead of just always trying to wipe your enemies off the map. Maul Peak also has great world building going on, as well as these little thematic ties for the actions. Everything makes sense and you can really picture yourself being in this world. If you were a giant creature like Saboso and you're doing your frost breath, you're not able to hit these small bears standing at your feet. They need to be further away in the adjacent spaces, and then once they're frozen, you move over to them to trap them. And then as the bears, it's really fun climbing on the giant board of the guardians, and then they can knock you off. It is really interesting in that way that helps you kind of visualize in your mind. You can really imagine this world and fighting these creatures. It was really cool for that. And that's all for this review of Maul Peak. It's a great two-player game that I definitely recommend checking out, especially if you have Skulk Hollow. If you have any questions about some of the abilities of the Grizzar or some of the other Guardians, just drop them in the comments and I'll get you an answer. Remember to like and subscribe for more board game videos to come.